I am really excited to talk with our next guest, Erin Lee. She's a mom, a concerned mom. And the story about her daughter is one that's being played out across this country right now. Erin Lee, welcome to the show, and thank you for sharing your story.
Hi, thank you for having me.
This transgender agenda is really going after our kids. And you had an experience with this. Tell us about it.
We did. And I'll preface with saying probably an unpopular opinion on this show. I'm an unaffiliated voter. I'm not politically motivated. I'm not religiously motivated. I'm here purely as a parent whose child was hurt by this extreme transgender ideology and sexuality agenda in our classroom. And it's been difficult to speak up, but we chose as a family to speak up to try to save other children and families from going through what we have. So last May in our public school, we had just moved to a new town and school district, and my shy, introverted, artistic little 11-year-old daughter hadn't connected with a single student her age. She was very visibly vulnerable. And one day her art and homeroom teacher invited her to stay for art club after school. And when she walked into that room, she realized very quickly it wasn't art club, it was GSA art club, which is gender and sexuality awareness. And the teacher had invited an outside presenter in to share with the children. This person was completely unqualified to be talking about sexuality with kids. She started with her primary rule: what you hear in here stays in here. She then brought out flags to describe different LGBTQ umbrella terms and defining words, as she called them, and how people feel under each of these flags. She asked my daughter who she was sexually attracted to. And when my child didn't know, she told her, well, then you're queer. Here's a flag, here's stickers, here's bracelets, here's extra to give your friends. She told her if she's not 100% comfortable in her 11-year-old female body, she's transgender. Here's the flags and stickers and bracelets and extra to give your friends. Tell everyone. She provided the kids with the genderbread person activity. If anyone listening hasn't seen this, they should Google it. It's incredibly alarming. It explicitly asks the children who they're sexually attracted to and asks them to plot their points on various spectrums of their gender and their sexuality. She gave the kids what she called were, of course, the obligatory stickers and wristbands that kids love to collect everywhere they go. They were all incredibly inappropriate and branded with terms we never would have allowed our child to wear. She explained to the children that families aren't safe, but that she is. And then she told the children it's okay to lie to their parents about where they are today and when they want to attend her future programming. She explained that monogamy and heterosexuality are not normal. She handed out her personal contact information to the kids and encouraged them to connect with her on social media and teen chat platforms. This is where she sends them secret invites to attend programming of hers online and in person with adults, some of the programming. This predacious stranger who had absolutely no qualifications to speak to little kids about sexuality infiltrated my child's brain for 3 hours while her trusted public school teacher stood idly by or potentially participated in this dissemination of misinformation and abuse. I'm not clear exactly on the teacher's role, but absolutely nothing has been done to address the teacher's role in this situation. She is still the GSA sponsor for the school and still inviting little kids to attend this programming without telling their parents.
Okay, so Erin,
go ahead.
So your daughter, you said she's 11 years old, and you said she was artistic, so she has a love of art. This was her homeroom and her art teacher that invited her to, quote unquote, you thought she was going to an after-school art program, and here it was this indoctrination, right?
It was complete indoctrination, and not just by school employees, but by an external party who is a known social extremist in the local area.
So, and they start off with "Don't tell your parents." And
they start off with "What you hear in here stays in here."
Wow. Okay, continue on. So your daughter, I have to ask. So you did the flag thing. You might be this. You might be that. My understanding is that under school curriculum, kindergartners through third graders are being shown images and talking about sexual acts that would have never crossed their mind. Was there any of that kind of stuff, any pictures or any discussion on, excuse me, sexual acts or anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. And that, we were blissfully naive parents walking through life, really, honestly unaware of this kind of agenda in a sixth grade classroom. Shame on us for being too trusting. As we've started to research how this came to be, is this an isolated incident? Where is this coming from? We're following the breadcrumbs, and it just goes up and up and up and up. And we've realized that this kind of content has been peppered throughout our curriculum. It's everywhere. It's in first grade social emotional learning. It's in the human growth and development curriculum. They're peppering it into math and physical education and anywhere they can, and it's undetectable. So we have other kids still in the public school district. We obviously removed our daughter the next day. When we picked her up, we could see in her face that something was wrong. She handed me the flags and bracelets. It was clear she was uncomfortable and confused. She broke the rule. She came right home and told us what had happened, and thank God that she trusted us enough to break the rule that these trusted adults had imposed on her. But breaching that conversation of what had just happened was really hard. We were totally ill-equipped to help her deal with the pain that had just been inflicted on her. And this is every parent's worst nightmare. I'm still in total shock and disbelief that this happened. And we're still dealing with the repercussions. This is this long-term emotional damage that was inflicted on our child in our public school.
In just 3 hours. What they have done. And I remember back 6th, 7th, 8th grade. That was a really difficult time in my life. It's a difficult time. Kids they're moving from being a kid. Their bodies are changing. And here, this homeroom art teacher, they're preying upon our kids. Our kids are being attacked, Erin, and like you say, we didn't realize that this curriculum didn't just show up. They have been working on this for quite some time. And so instead of teaching our kids the things that they need to be successful, to be whole human beings, and that's what I think we as community members, parents, grandparents, had thought education was doing. They are totally off the rails now. And of course, now we're here in Colorado, we're putting more and more money into public education. I was talking with a young mother the other day, and she said, what should we do? I said, we need to be running legislation. And I can't remember which of our great representatives ran it, but it was a bill here in the legislature, which the Democrats, I don't think it even got out of committee. But that is we need to be running legislation in every state here that parents and grandparents, community members, there's total transparency of the curriculum of what is occurring. I think that's one of the first places to start. Erin, what do you think?
I agree, and it was Representative Geithner, and I actually was one of the very few people that showed up to support that bill. It was, 20-plus people opposing it with complete nonsense. But you're right, it was voted down on a party line, and it's insane that this is even a political issue. We're just asking for schools to provide the information we request. If we ask to see the curriculum that our children are being provided with, we send our children to school knowing that their heads will be filled. We count on it. That's why we send them to school. So we deserve to know what it is their heads are being filled with. And in my case, I had no way to know prior to it happening. They intentionally kept this secret when we followed the appropriate channels after this happened, and we somehow remained calm enough to follow the appropriate channels. The woman who did this completely doubled down on everything she did. When we contacted the principal, he indicated that, yes, we conducted this in secret. We have to provide a safe space for children. So they're doing this intentionally in secret before parents have a chance to intervene. And by that time, it's too late. The damage is already done.
Yes, my father always said, be careful what you read and you watch and you think about, because images that you see, it's very difficult. You kind of never really unsee them. So, and the other thing, Erin, is I feel that they're grooming our kids for predators as well, to be victims of predators. And I can't believe that that's happening. What's your thoughts on that? And then we'll go to break and come back.
No, it's absolutely grooming. And, in this case, they brought the predator right into the classroom to groom the children. So they're not just grooming them for predators, they're bringing the predator into the classroom. It's absolutely predacious behavior. Everything this person did, if they'd done it outside of a classroom, would be illegal. And I did call the cops. It's the first thing I did. I called the police. And there's nothing they can do because it happened in a classroom.
Really? Okay, you talk about a brave mom. Erin Lee, that she went down and she had her voice heard. And that's so frustrating. I've been down at the State House, and many times it's like many of these radical activist Democrats, they don't even offer respect to people that come in and everyday people that take the time to get down there and to testify on that. Let's go to break. We're talking with very concerned mother Erin Lee about this whole transgender movement and how they're really trying to prey upon our children. And so we're going to go to break. When we come back, my blood pressure rising right now, Erin Lee. I don't really know what to say. I'm so pleased that you have the courage to let people know. I was at a meeting the other night, and a mother who said her 16-year-old daughter, that many of her friends are going down this transgender road. And then what they're encouraging on this transgender agenda is really child mutilation, drugs and surgery to change who they are. And it's really mutilation, things that can't be reversed. And Erin, what do you say to parents? What can they do? They don't even know this is occurring.
Yeah, well, I will just point out that as I've dug into research on this issue, I have learned that there is absolutely an agenda to target 11 to 13-year-old girls. They are, like you said, it's a confusing time. Their body is changing. They are at their most vulnerable, and this agenda knows that. So my daughter fell right into the stereotypes that they look for, and they recruited her in based on her vulnerability. So, the first thing I can say is prepare your daughters. They are the target. Have conversations with them about what it's okay for an adult to discuss with them and what isn't okay. Get ahead of the schools. Make sure that, if they're attending an extracurricular program, that you demand to know what that program will entail, who's presenting. My best piece of advice is pull your kids out of public school. That's what we did, and it's the best decision I ever made for my daughter. She's now thriving in a private Christian school. Thank God we were able to get through this insane hurdle that was thrown at us. It's hard. Speaking up is really, really hard because I've been met with such vitriol and, social chastising, and it's difficult for parents to speak up. And I know there's a lot of people like me that just are afraid to say anything. And there's a lot of kids out there who have had this done to them and followed the rules. They didn't go home and tell their parents, and they're suffering in silence. But the obvious things, get involved. Be in your child's classroom as much as you can. Talk to their teacher. Tell them what's okay and what's not. Put it in writing. With my second grader still in public school, the very first day of school, I sent a message to the principal and to the teacher and said, this is what will not happen with my child. Now it's in writing. These conversations will not happen with my child. Being involved in your children's life and opening up that line of communication is the best thing you can do.
Well, and all of this takes time. Parents are getting squeezed financially with all the rules and regulations and taxes. And so when kids go to school, moms many times are going to work. And it's almost like there's this perfect storm that I think that we've been moving towards through public policy, squeezing the middle class family, culture out there. But I'm excited that the veil is coming off of all of this. And Erin, the fact that you were unaffiliated politically, not really active, am I correct? That's what you said at the beginning of our interview, correct?
Correct. And I've traditionally been pretty socially progressive when I vote.
Wow. All that's changing now, correct?
That is absolutely changing. My eyes have been opened. And, you don't know what you don't know. And that's part of the reason I chose to speak up. This agenda is happening in secret intentionally. Parents don't know it's happening. And the opposition, that I've faced when I spoke up is that I'm intolerant, I'm bigoted, and these are the words they teach our children. They teach our children in these programming that people that don't accept the label you want for yourself as a child, right, a transgender label, 11 years old, are intolerant, we're bigoted. And so we play right into the narrative that they put in our child's head.
So what's your so, and that's shutting down people that want to talk about, engage in this battle of ideas, because this is a bad idea and it can't pass the muster. If we really had conversations about it. Again, encouraging 11 to 13-year-old girls, ultimately, it becomes child mutilation in doing this. And so we've got just a few minutes left. What's some of these final thoughts that you want to say to parents? I know you say be in the classroom, know what the extracurricular activities are. Demand, I think, even though we can't get legislation passed, I think if parents start to show up at the school and say, we want to see the curriculum, we want to know what's going on, not only parents, but grandparents, community members, people that we are paying for this education, I think people need to show up and start to demand that.
That's right. And say, I don't agree with this transgender and sexuality ideology in the classroom. Because an overwhelming amount of people will speak up at those school board meetings in support of it. That's what I have found. And the people who oppose it are afraid to speak up. So dig deep, be brave, go to your local school board. So many decisions are made at the local level. As we talked about, the state bill was voted down immediately in committee. So these things are handled at the district level. Our community members have to get involved with their school districts. They have to speak up. They have to say they aren't okay with this kind of ideology in the classroom. Otherwise, it's going to continue on, and it's going to get stronger. This agenda and this effort is just getting stronger and stronger, and it's trickling down to younger and younger kids. The woman who was invited into my classroom works with kids as young as 5. She's also a substitute teacher in the Tri-County area with elementary students and an employee of the Larimer County Health Department. So, these roots run deep, and we as a community have to speak up and say we're not okay with it. Otherwise, it's going to continue and it's going to grow.
So I was talking with a young mom the other day, and she was trying to understand how these local school districts work. These school board races are very important. And the school board members, in many cases for many years, it's been the teachers' unions that have come in and gotten these school board members elected. We're realizing that agenda, they've supported this. And we're seeing a real movement towards more conservative board members. But the real key is the superintendent, because they're the ones that are hired by the school district that then put in policy. And so there needs to be real discernment on these superintendents, and they make a king's ransom. Their salaries are huge. We've got a couple of minutes on that. What's your thoughts on that, Erin Lee?
Well, we have to hold them accountable, these superintendents. But the reality is that they're beholden to their bosses, right? The school board controls them. They hire them. They have the power to fire them. And so you have to hold them accountable for what the community wants and for what parents want, not what their bosses are pushing down to them. And again, those school board members here in the Poudre School District were elected by a landslide due to an overwhelming influx of teachers' union funds. So, our grassroots efforts stood no chance to try to get a conservative on that school board because there was so much money funneled into keeping the school board democratic and woke and pushing these kinds of initiatives. So the superintendent is important, and you have to hold them accountable. But I think the school board is even more important because, as I've learned here, the superintendent does what he's expected by his bosses, the board.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Boy, the veil is coming off. I'm pleased about that, but we have much work to do. They are grooming our children, particularly, as you said, 11 to 13-year-old girls, but it starts earlier. So when they get to that age, then they've already been kind of groomed for this woman to come in. You said she's a substitute teacher. She was with the Larimer County Health Department. I'm pleased the veil is coming off, but my gosh, we have such a battle here for our children. Erin Lee, thank you for your brave voice. I so appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, we're out of time here. We're going to be